So another value add strategy that I've used on at least 3 or 4 properties is negotiating deals on either cable or internet.
Yeah.
So the concept of most people have internet anyway, negotiating a bulk rate for all the units and then trying to make sure that you're charging less than what they'd be paying individually. But if you negotiate a good enough rate, you're still making a profit.
I'll tell you of a contract that we negotiated. We got internet for all the residents. We got 400 megabits upload and download through a fiber optic.
Pretty fast.
And we're charged, let's say, $30 or $40 a unit. We can turn around and charge the residents 60. The reason why we do that is because if they went out and got that 400 megabit internet themselves, they would be paying closer to 100. And so now everybody's on the hook for their own internet. And so they can either pay $100 for their own internet, or they could pay 60 and be happier. Welcome to the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast, where precision meets performance in commercial real estate. I'm your host, Jason Williams, and every week we deep dive into the strategies and systems and stories behind rock-solid underwriting. Whether you're a seasoned analyst, an up-and-coming investor, or a commercial real estate professional looking to sharpen your edge, this show is your front row seat to expert insights, emerging trends, and real-world underwriting tactics that stand the test of time and scrutiny. From market assumptions to debt structuring, cap rates to cash flow, we're cutting through the noise and getting to the numbers that matter. So sharpen your pencils and fire up those models. Let's get to work. This is Ironclad Underwriting. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Williams. And like always, got my good friend, business partner, Frank Patalano. How are you doing, Frank?
Good, sir. Just another day trying to figure out ways to make money.
That's the end goal for all of us, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're
Yep.
doing this, is to try to figure out how to ways to make money. It's kind of like fishing. It's like you go and fish. You might not catch anything, but you're still fishing. Because if you caught something every time, you'd call it catching and not fishing. With that, I think in the last episode we talked about exit strategies, and so one of those strategies we kind of touched on is value add, buying a multifamily property, adding value to it, and then selling it or refining it and pulling equity out and then selling it later. So this time, I want to go further into that strategy and talk about value add and some typical ways to value add, why you want to do value add strategies. Um, so the thing with commercial property, it's different than residential property, is you can almost dictate how much that property is worth. With residential single family home, you pretty much are dictated by your neighborhood, the age of the property, what everything around it is selling for, and then that's pretty much what your property is going to be worth. You agree with that?
Yeah, when you talk about smaller residential, it's mostly based on comps. You know, you can do certain things to the property, but it doesn't always change the value of the property versus on the commercial side, you're running a lot more with the actual numbers. It's about income and expenses and NOI
Yeah.
and cap rate.
Yeah. So I think one way you can probably increase the value of your house is maybe if you add a pool or something to it. It has to be probably something big like that, and you might not be able to get the value you put into it. You might spend 80 grand pool and it increases your value by 50,000 or something like that. Um, so that's a net negative there. But with commercial, um, there's a thing called forced appreciation instead of natural appreciation, which is the residential. And forced appreciation is definitely based off the numbers of the property, where you have your net operating income, you have your all your income, rent, and everything, other income, and you subtract your operating expenses. We've talked about this in the past, um, but just an example. Well, so you get your NOI, your net operating income, and then you have your cap rate for that for the area. Now, cap rate is kind of dictated by comps and everything, but it's it still gives the user, the operator, more control of the property than anything else. Oh, simple example of forced depreciation is a 100 unit property and rents are $1,000 a month. So that is $10,000 a unit, and or no, so that's what
With
100.
$12,000 a year per unit, or
Yeah, so right now you're bringing in sort of what, hundred
a
thousand. If
hundred
there's a
thousand dollars a month in rents.
Yeah, so if we rate all of those units, we add in $10,000, and that allows us to bump rents up to 1,200 a unit. Then that extra 200 a month increases the property by 20,000 a month, or 240,000 a year in the NOI. And say at a six cap, that means we've created $4 million property, additional property value, where we invest in $1 million, $10,000 times 100 units. So that's a 4 to 1 return on our renovation. Now, granted, you're not going to see that right away. You'll get it when you refi or your sell, but that just gives you an idea. I put in $1 million, I add $4 million worth of value to the property. That is what value add is.
I think
So,
you went a little quick with on the numbers for me there.
okay, I back it up. So we have 100 units, and the average rent is $1,000 a month. Okay, we renovate all units, $10,000. How much is that number? Pull out your trusty calculator.
So 10,000 times 100 units
Yep,
is $1 million.
it's $1 million. Now, with that, we can increase our rents $200 per month. So now we're at 1,200 a month. Let's just look at the 200 because we're only doing what the value add part is, not the whole thing. So we add 200 a month unit. So that's 200 times 100. It's 20,000
Times 12 months.
times 12 months.
It's
It's 200
$240,000 more per year.
per. Yeah, that's almost $250,000 per year just by adding $200 a month in extra rent. Now, for a six cap rate, 6%, we take that 240,000 and divide it by 0.06. And what does that give you?
That's a $4 million difference or an additional property value.
So $4 million additional property value. And our original investment was what again?
$1 million.
1 million. So that's where I get the 4 to 1 return on investment.
Perfect. Yeah. Um, it sounds awesome. Do you think that can happen a lot?
Um, it could have happened 5 years ago pretty easily. Um, $10,000 per unit is actually a pretty good renovation.
Yep.
So
I
if
agree
you're
with that.
adding $10,000 a unit, you are in the realm of being able to increase rents substantially. So $200 I don't think is out of the question. So I do think it's somewhat doable. Um, but there are a lot of things. What is that $10,000 going to? You know, if it's just going to like subfloors and or putting in stoves and fridges and stuff, then yeah, you can't really charge a whole lot more. I mean, you can charge more for like updated appliances that are like the most modern flooring and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think if you're
Sometimes,
actually adding value to the things that people want and need to appreciate the units, you can definitely see that. A lot of times when people have CapEx budgets, obviously a roof needs to be done, but a roof is not going to allow you to raise rents. If
plumbing issues won't allow you to raise rents.
Yeah, if you're redoing a parking lot, it definitely makes the property look nicer and people will enjoy it more. But does that mean it's worth more than $10 a month or $20 a month In rent, probably not.
Well, I think that's debatable because if you can make the property look nicer, then that brings in a different clientele
Well, I agree
that
with you, but
can
sometimes it's
if
hard to monetize what that is.
I agree. I don't think there's a direct monetization on some things.
That's all I was saying.
Um, a roof you can't monetize because you have to have a roof on it.
But it's, yeah, it still needs to be done. You can't have leaking roofs.
Yeah, and no resident is going to care if you have a metal roof or asphalt shingles or wooden shingles or whatever. They don't care. Um, they don't care if you're putting in $80,000 worth of sewage lines because that's expected, but
Yep.
it still has to be done. They do care when that $80,000 sewage line is not taken care of because things start backing up and then they move out. So that's a bad thing. So sewage, roofs, see like things that the resident does not see directly, they don't care about.
Yep.
That they don't care if there's an AC or a chiller or a mini split or whatever. They just want a cool, livable apartment.
They want air conditioning when it's time for air conditioning, and they want heat when it's time for heat.
Yeah, they don't care really how it is. They care about the situation where if it's not that, why is their apartment uncomfortable? Um, Sometimes they care if there's a dog park so that it can go and walk their dogs. It's
Yeah, if
pet
they have
friendly
dogs.
if they have dogs. Um, Pools are generally nice, so you want to maintain it, but it's almost always expected too. So if you have a crappy pool, they would not want to pay more for that crappy pool to be updated because a pool is a pool. But if you didn't have a pool and then you added one, then you can, I think, increase the rents that way, going from nothing to a pool. But if you have a pool, a crappy pool up to a better pool, I don't think that would matter.
Agreed.
Um, let's see, fitness center. I think a lot of people would like to use a fitness center. A lot of people don't want to use a fitness center. So sometimes a fitness center might need to be like almost an additional fee where they get a card to access it versus charging everybody that fee to use it or upping everybody's rent to use it. What do you think of that?
Well, my choices again, charging everybody or just charging a fee for people to use it.
Yeah.
At first glance, maybe it depends on the class of the property. Um, I think it's easier if everybody pays it versus usage. Um, there's a difference between tennis courts and a workout room, you know.
So let me ask you this then. There's a property next door to yours, almost same exact everything, but without a fitness center. And then you have the property with a fitness center, and the rents are $25 different. Do you think people would want to pay that $25 knowing the only difference is that fitness center, whether they use it or not?
I think
Or
some people would, and I think some people wouldn't care, and I think some people might look at units at each and decide more based on the unit and say, is this unit worth 25 bucks more
yeah,
without caring about the fitness center at all?
yeah. So okay, fitness center would be a good value add. Um,
Well, dog park's definitely a good value add.
Dog park.
You
So
know,
with a dog park though, that also brings in if you have a dog park that attracts people with pets, so that brings in pet rent and pet fees as well. So
yeah.
that's also a plus.
Value adds I've seen a lot lately, not saying I don't think it's a little over the top, is pickleball courts. Um, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, oh, it's not necessarily that expensive to do either. I'm just throwing out, I've seen a lot of class B and class A properties doing it.
Yeah.
A barbecue station, stuff like that, another value
Yeah.
add.
Laundry center versus um units that have washer and dryer hookups versus units that have washer and dryers. So that's good value add. You can say, hey, every unit has a hookup, and you can rent a washer and dryer from us, or you can go out and buy your own, or you can use our laundry center, or you can go down the street and use a laundromat. So I mean, generally, laundry is good. People always have to do laundry. They would rather doing it in their apartment versus going somewhere else and competing for washers and dryers. At least that's my take. Whenever I was living in an apartment, I hated having to compete for all that stuff. So
I mean, the price would definitely be more if you have hookups because the water bill is going to be higher.
if it's like an all bills paid property, or if it's
Most of the time, water is one bill compared to electric, compared to heat.
yeah,
I mean, they still have places that are heat. They still have places that are one electric bill, but still, water is more likely than any of those.
yeah, gas. But yeah, you can charge like $50 a month for a washer and dryer. So if you happen to have extra ones laying around and you want to rent them to your residents, then let them use the washer and dryers for a fee. So um let's see, some amenities. I don't think it really depends on your market and your clientele. But if you have like granite countertops or nice pretty tile backsplashes, some people like that and are willing to pay an additional rent for it, and other people really couldn't care less and won't.
Fans
I've
in every room.
Yeah, ceiling fans. I've seen properties over rehab. Over rehab means they spent way too much on a property. They put granite countertops in, and they were asking for too much rent, and their vacancy went through the roof because people in that market couldn't care less about granite countertops. They're just happy with the Formica countertops or the resurfaced countertops that all the other apartments in town have. And so when you go in and you pay for a granite countertop, you're paying significant money for minimal return. Stainless steel appliances, I think people generally like just because it makes their apartment like more modern and prettier.
A big thing a
Uh,
couple of years ago that people were doing was adding, well, like Amazon pickup stations or something, or drop drop spots. I but there was no income producing on that. So I mean, it's not Amazon wasn't going to pay you to have the space. So
did Amazon pay to put them in, or did you pay to
no,
put them in?
that I don't know. That's a good question. I never ended up doing them, but
I
I just didn't see the income side of putting them in.
Yeah, I don't see that either. If Amazon is not going to pay for it, I mean, who would want to pay? Because I mean, right now, if someone gets an Amazon package, if it's big enough, it's delivered to the door, or maybe it's sitting in the office waiting for them to pick it up, or maybe if it's small enough, it goes in their mailbox. So,
Yeah, just
um,
thinking of ideas of value add with I mean, the whole concept of value add, the whole reason why people do it is for that forced depreciation.
yeah. What about business centers? Is business centers a thing more now that everybody pretty much has a business center on their pocket, their phone?
I don't consider it a thing anymore. I mean, I have been to airports and I've been to definitely hotel lobbies that still have some sort of business center, maybe for a printer. But
So I've seen them in hotels and I've never seen them used.
yeah, no, you're not wrong. And like I said, I've seen them at airports too. It's
Yeah.
just like another place for people to sit down.
Yeah. Some things, some capex that's not really value add would be like exterior painting, landscaping, lighting. People feel safer if there's good lighting. So maybe you can bring in higher clientele with that regard. Cameras also, but generally with cameras, they're going to be a big investment and you can't directly have an ROI with that. That's an
And
indirect one.
monitoring them is tough.
Yeah. Or or do you only monitor them when an event happens? Like, all right, something happened. Let's go back and look at the cameras and see if it picked it up.
Yep,
I don't
we've
think
done that.
I don't think we have anyone just sitting there watching the cameras day in and day out looking for shenanigans. It's usually after the fact. So
So it obviously depends on the quality of the property. I have seen it for, we'll call it D-class properties, where you're paying for active monitoring. But overall, I agree.
so if you're paying for active monitoring, it's usually like through a third party
Oh yeah,
service.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
You're not paying a manager up there to watch cameras.
No, definitely not. No, no. We've had people contact us to do virtual assistant style monitoring. We have four or five, but I mean, these are also larger complexes as well.
Yeah.
You might have a 300 or 400 unit apartment complex.
Some good ROI value adds could be like um
Maybe
rubs
we should say what Rubs is.
ratio utility bill system, and that is where if it's an all typically an all bills paid property, then you ratio out the utilities based on unit size, number of occupants, and stuff like that. Now, granted, if you are in a rub unit, you have a single bedroom and you're doing it all by yourself, but you have like Bitcoin mining going on or something, and you're using a lot of utilities, they may want to adjust their rubs on you or prevent you from doing that if they can catch you. So, but
I was gonna say most of the time they're probably not gonna notice because it's
it,
ratio billing, so it's usually based in the bedroom. They're not looking. Often you're not setting up individual meters
right,
or sub
no,
meters.
what I'm saying though is depending on how big your mining outfit is, if all of a sudden their electric fee jumped or electric bill jumped like 25% after a single person moves in, they might want to figure out why, because otherwise everybody's paying for that.
Jason, you do it slowly. You ramp up.
Unless the people who do this aren't necessarily the smartest cookies in the box when it comes to common sense. So,
There you go.
but yeah, it's you pay a portion of the utility for the whole complex based on your square footage, number of bedrooms, number of people occupying that space. So, it could be like if you have a family of four in a 3 bedroom apartment, they might pay a little bit higher than like a single bedroom, one person living there type thing. Um, Another thing is we mentioned improving the parking lots, but with improving the parking lots, maybe you add in reserved parking spots or covered parking, and then you can charge for that. We have one property where we added in 24 covered parking spots, and the total parking was like 100 ish. So we're like sitting at right around 25% covered parking spots. We get to charge a premium for people to park under there. And North Texas, you want to park under something because we get a lot of hailstorms and everything else in this area. So people are willing to pay $40 a month to park their car under an awning or
Yeah, it's
carport.
less than $2 a day. So
And think about this: the residents who live there, their biggest investment, or if you call it that, if you don't follow Kiyosaki's rules, their car is usually their biggest investment, their
yep.
biggest asset. So they want to keep their car as best as they can. So they're going to
Well,
park it under something.
it might be their 401k, but overall, yes, I agree. Their car is a big investment for them.
Yeah. So
So another value add strategy that I've used on at least three or four properties is negotiating deals on either cable or internet.
yeah,
So the concept of most people have internet anyway, um, negotiating a bulk rate for all the units and then trying to make sure that you're charging less than what they'd be paying individually. But if you negotiate a good enough rate, you're still making a profit.
yeah. So just for well, I'll tell you of a contract that we negotiated. We got internet for all the residents. We got 400 megabits upload and download through a fiber optic.
Pretty fast.
Um, and we're charged, let's say $30 or $40 a unit. We can turn around and charge the residents 60. The reason why we do that is because if they went out and got that 400 megabit internet themselves, they would be paying closer to 100. Now, granted, due to COVID and all that 2020 BS where everyone was working from home, the government was doing a lot of internet plans and subsidies where a lot of people were getting their internet for free, high speed internet for free, because they were on a program that allowed
Yeah,
them to
that's
do that.
mostly gone though.
But yeah, those have almost all been phased out. And so now everybody's on the hook for their own internet. And so they can either pay $100 for their own internet, or they could pay 60 and be happier. And bringing that on initially, that was like a rude awakening. Nobody wanted it. They thought it was 400 megabits shared across a whole complex. And so there's a lot of trash talking. But then when people started using it and realizing what it actually was, it was a whole lot better. And now nobody's complaining about it, and everybody's on board with it. So um some complexes you can put in units and rent out storage units. Um, some of the properties can have valet trash service where you can just leave your trash out on your porch like a couple times a week, and it'll be gathered up and taken from you. So those are some good value add. And with that, yeah, you might have to pay a service, or you might have to pay your maintenance men or somebody to go through and gather it all up. But generally speaking, I think that's you get a pretty good ROI on it if your residents want that service. Not all residents want that service or care for it. Depending on the class of property, some would rather keep that money and put it toward food or gas or something like that. If you have residents with disposable income, then yeah, they might go for something like that and start paying for conveniences. So, um, one way we didn't even talk about adding value is actually reducing expenses and streamlining um, systems, making things more efficient. And if you can reduce your operating expenses, then your NOI is going to go up as well. So
That's the easiest way, actually. If there's room.
theoretically, it's the easiest way.
Yeah.
If you have a property that is well maintained, the work orders, you have like 1 to 2 work orders at a time and they're taken care of in a timely manner. Maybe you can get rid of a full-time maintenance man and just make them part-time or something. And if you have multiple complexes, you can still make them full-time, but just make them split between complexes.
Yeah. Economies of scale.
Yep. Um, Payroll is probably the biggest expense of a property, and if you can start reducing that, that is going to have a biggest hit, I think, on your value add or on your NOI. So, anything else?
Nope. I'm done.
We talked about units, talked about exterior ones. Some have an ROI, some don't have an ROI, some have to be done, whether there's an ROI on them or not. We sort of talked about the risks. I know sometimes you want to implement rubs from day one, and then the next thing you know, your occupancy drops to 70% because nobody wants to pay rubs. So then you have to change your business plan and reevaluate. Um, Anytime you're going to raise rents blanketly or start charging people fees blanketly, you're going to have push. So
Well, I mean, you also have to know what your competition is. I mean, if your competition is charging less money with more amenities, then you have a problem.
yeah,
On the flip side, if they're charging the same amount that you are, and you have a pool and they don't, and you have a nice few other amenities and a little nicer cabinets, and people can afford the increase, you might have room to increase.
yeah, and really the best bet is to you don't go in blindly expecting everything to work out. You have to work with your property management, and they're going to give you some pushback because they don't like the pushback they're going to get whenever they start implementing it. So, I mean, there's going to be some give and take, but the management will know what your residents can and can't handle generally. And they're going to give you feedback on what amenities you can provide and charge for versus what amenities are expected versus what has to be taken care of that's not going to have any ROI at all. So you have to have a good relationship with your property manager, and then you can move forward with that. So like you have a class C property, you can't add valet trash service because nobody's going to use it. And so you might be paying for the service to have someone come and do it, but no one's using it. So you're just paying for nothing. So, and if you into a contract, be in a contract for 5 years and you're paying them 5,000 a month for doing nothing, and that NOI right there. So you have to be careful what contracts you get into. So, if you want to learn more, you can look me up, ironcladunderwriting.com. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever platform you're listening to this on. Frank's on many of those same platforms. So reach out to us if you want to learn more. If you want help with your business plan, we can help you with that. I provide underwriting consulting, coaching, all of the above. You have anything else, Frank?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, we'll catch you next time. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, rate, and share the show. And don't forget to connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or check us out at our website at ironcladunderwriting.com for more insights and updates. If you have a question, a deal you're analyzing, or a topic you want us to tackle, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep your assumptions grounded, your models sharp, and your underwriting ironclad.